Welcome to our Devos this week. We are continuing to talk about controlling that conflict. You can't avoid it. The people that you love are just as sinful as you are. You can't really work around it. So you have to learn how to put controls around it where it doesn't destroy and wreck the foundation of your relationship. So the first one yesterday when we talked about this idea of going into a conflict with the purpose of listening and trying to understand how the conflict came to be, we now shift gears to how we get into that discussion, which would be very important. Almost no one does this. They make a choice of when they're going to confront, but they never make this choice, and that is the choice to choose winning words. Choosing winning words. Folks, I know that this sounds weird, and I know this is going to kind of sound crazy because as Christians, we're talking about being truthful. I just got to tell the truth. I just got to put it all out there. You do. But here is the secret of conflict. How you say a thing and the words that you say have just as much impact on how that conflict shakes out as whether or not you even have the right side of the conflict to begin with. Meaning, whether or not it was your offense that caused the conflict or their offense, it doesn't make a difference. It's how you go about doing it. And the way that you want to frame this is that you want to choose words that are mutually kind or humble, okay? Next to impossible to do in the moment. So, I will tell you, we've been married for 17 years. And in the moment, you are going to say the worst things. You're going to say the worst things. How many times have you talked to other couples or talked to other families, and they start a family argument, and it's in the heat of a situation? Well, I blew my temper, I blew my top, and therefore I said things. I didn't really mean those things. Well, the truth is you meant something, but the words that you chose were so terrible that it poisoned the conflict and it turned into an all-out nuclear destruction in your family. So choosing the right words, how you approach that conflict is vital. In Proverbs chapter 16, verse 24, it says, gracious words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul, and health to the body. The value in those words, the intrinsic beauty of the right word. God has blessed us with the gift of language. So how we approach a conflict is very important. So something practical to look at. And you've heard me mention this before, and I'm mentioning it in my message, but here it is. When you go into a conflict, and I'm not the only one that says this. There's a bunch of Christian counselors that do it, secular therapists do it, so this isn't mine. But when you're about to have a conflict, you start with I feel statements. Now, again, if you're super hardcore truth, this is going to fly in the face of everything you know. You're like, I'm just going to tell them they were wrong and you're out of line. No. Okay, remember, what kind of conflict is this? This is a conflict where you are trying to preserve the relationship. It's not just you preaching against somebody or something. It's where you are trying to preserve the relationship. So starting off with an I feel. I feel that the way you spoke to me yesterday was disrespectful. It hurt me. I was upset by this. I didn't like how you used this kind of language with me, and it hurt my feelings. I want to understand how this got off the rails. Or when you do X behavior, it makes me feel X result. Okay? So when you go, out with your friends instead of going out with your family, when you'd rather be with friends and go do hobbies instead of spending time with your kids, it makes me feel that you're not valuing our time. Help me to understand. I heard another writer put it this way, and the way that she kind of put it really stuck with me. She said that when she goes into a conversation with her husband where she may be off the rails, she will say this, and I've said this before too because I absorb all this stuff when I'm listening. She says, I go and I say, the story that I'm telling myself about this situation is, and then she paints the picture, that you don't care about this. I'm telling myself that you think that, you don't care for me, you're angry at me. Tell me where this story is wrong. And then you give them the opportunity to correct it, apologize, tell you their side, get to the bottom of it, and it changes the direction. If you start off a conflict with, you know what, you really screwed this up. I can't believe the way you talked to me that way. And you know what, I deserve better. How dare you do this? You're out of line. Okay, what do you think's going to happen? Like, what's going to happen with that? Oh, I'm so glad you said this. Thank you. Do you think that's going to happen? Are you really going to solve anything that way? Now, again, I'm not telling you that I know how to do it perfectly. I'm just telling you that you and I know that there are ways to do this that aren't working. And you and I know that when it comes to your spouse or when it comes to your adult children or when it comes to your extended family, that when we're having these conversations, sometimes what you're doing isn't working. So that means we might have to back up and choose the right words as we approach these meaningful relationships with conflict so that God can use that conflict to solidify instead of tear apart that relationship.